But yeah, again, for me, this was way beyond expectations. Guys, I thought like 30 wins was the ceiling. Like that's what I was like, you know what? If this team wins 26, 27 games, that's awesome. That's an improvement. That's growth. They can take a step forward. 30 would have been like, hey, this was awesome. They won 40 plus games and took the Knicks to 6, including 2 wins in the Garden.
Okay, welcome to the Daily Basketball Recap Season Recap Edition. We have the honor and the privilege to have guest Bryce Simon with us today. Bryce is a Pistons expert. He's going to help us recap the Pistons season. There are few people in the world who know more about the Pistons than Bryce Simon. Bryce, what's going on?
What's up, guys? Thanks for having me. Yeah, I mean, I appreciate the intro. I do feel like I think I know a lot. I watch a lot it's been 5 years straight, every second, scouted the draft picks, all of that stuff. So finally, of the 5 years, finally got a good year to watch and analyze this team because they finally won some basketball games and were competitive. So a lot more fun of a recap this year than maybe the previous 4 years if we were doing this.
That's for sure. So last year, for sure, they were awful. It was a scary time to be a Pistons fan. This year, just to recap for everyone who's not following the Pistons so closely, they finished with a 44-38 record, sixth in the Eastern Conference. Their over/under to start the season was 24.5. They were 20 games over their over/under prediction. Cade Cunningham ascended to superstar, maybe even super duper star, depending how you want to say it. He was an All-NBA third team and is now eligible for a Supermax contract. They made it to the playoffs and they lost to the Knicks in a very good and competitive series. Jaden Ivey played really well and got hurt, which I think is a huge, huge factor. And they picked up Dennis Schroeder by the trade deadline, and he's been unbelievable for them. That I would say is the season in a nutshell, but let's get thoughts from the master Bryce. What were your initial thoughts on the season? Kind of maybe like
Yeah,
a letter grade if you can.
yeah. So just the overarching view was this team came in off a 14-win season and we needed to see growth and progress, right? What they ended up doing was beyond expectations. It was beyond the realm of what I thought truly was probably possible. The other thing we should highlight here is Troy Weaver, the previous general manager, was essentially let go slash fired slash found a new job when they hired over him with Trajan Langdon. Then of course Monty Williams, Tom Gore's the owner of the Pistons, ate all of that money after 1 year and let him go of his position. They brought in JB Bickerstaff, and so those were huge additions in terms of the non-on-court stuff. I thought Trajan did a great job prioritizing floor spacing, gravity, and veterans who play games. I know that may sound silly to people, but you could tell he prioritized 3 guys in Hardaway Jr., Tobias Harris, and Malik Beasley who are consistently available to play games, and all of those guys have gravity of some regard. And then you mentioned Cade Cunningham. We don't have to get into the semantics here. I thought he should have been second team All-NBA. I truly do. I think that's where he should have been. He was an All-NBA player. He got rewarded for it. Like, we don't need to really dive into it, but I think it just highlights how good he was this year. Has some things to work on, showed up in the playoffs as well. But yeah, I would say without getting to each individual young core member and how they played this year, that's the overarching spot that Detroit was in this season.
For sure. And what would you grade the season if you were a teacher giving a letter grade?
I mean, an A plus. I mean, for one, I am a teacher, so this works really well.
Cool.
Yeah. But yeah, again, for me, this was way beyond expectations. Guys, I thought 30 wins was the ceiling. That's what I was like, you know what? If this team wins 26, 27 games, that's awesome. That's an improvement. That's growth. They can take a step forward. 30 would have been like, hey, this was awesome. They won 40 plus games and took the Knicks to 6, including 2 wins in the Garden. I mean, This is an A+ season. Now they have to continue to grow from that. And I know we don't want to look forward, but if we're just looking at the past 12 months, A+. No other grade for me.
I like it. I like it. They really did, I guess, if when you're grading, right, you want to give like as far as like the from the potential of the student, right? So
Yeah.
like let's say, whatever, there's a test could have a random grade, but if you want to say like how for if you want to give like a grade for a year, like what is someone's potential versus what they can do, 100% A+ is the right grade. These Pistons
That
exceeded
that's
all expectations.
That's exactly right. Like to me, I define success as like how close do you get to your potential, right? Like the three of us in whatever area, right? Like we would have different potential as podcasters, as basketball players, as like I don't know, whatever you. I don't do much other than podcasts and basketball stuff. I'm sure you guys are probably more fun and do fun things than what I do, but it's like success is reaching your potential. And for me, what they did in 12 months with where they were at and where they got to, like, what more could I have expected from them?
I think it's also like a really nice like bring it home story as well, because they somehow like imbued this modern team with the feeling of like older Pistons teams. Like the physicality came out
Yeah, yeah,
also,
yeah.
and they really overachieved like on so many levels. Like what like there's nothing not to love. Like taking also like taking the chance on Malik Beasley, like incredible. Just like a very very excellent effort. All that.
Yeah. Yeah, no, you're right. Like it is very this is a very intense fan base, a fan base that loves their teams across the sports, the Tigers, the Lions, the Red Wings, including the Pistons, and they really endeared themselves to the fan base, and they have players that really like live into that in terms of Isaiah Stewart, rookie Ron Holland. Those guys are kind of tough guys with a little bit of attitude that aren't going to back down, and the fan base loves that aspect of them. And I will tell you, if you ask me what is one word to describe this season, the word I used all year was respond. This team did not respond to tough situations the first 4 years that I did this during this rebuild. They called it a restoration during Troy Weaver's time. They did not respond. Like, you didn't respond very well if you went on a 28 game losing streak and you just kept losing. This team, like they would lose a few games, you'd be like, oh no, are they about to go on a streak? No, they respond. They get down in the first half, they respond. Like it just there JB did a great job of building a culture with this team and a mixture of young players and the veteran players.
Yeah. And it was
100%.
also, I give a lot of credit to JB because he's coming off that firing at Cleveland. And you would think with like Cleveland's success, it would just be like a bad year for him. It's just not, and he's just phenomenal right now. He's like one of the best coaches in the league. I would even argue, especially from a turnaround from 14 to 44. I don't know. There's very few coaches that can do that.
Yeah, no, I'm just gonna say, like, there was a lot of questions about the JB hiring for Detroit. Like, well, see, like Cleveland, he couldn't get it done in the playoffs, and what I'm like, who cares? Who cares if Detroit hires a coach that doesn't get it done in the playoffs? They need to get to the playoffs before they worry about that. And now this all happened faster than what I thought it was going to, but I'm like, you know what? If JB gets them to the playoffs 3 straight years and they lose in the first round, and it's like, hey, they're not going to get over the hump with him, then fire him, find the next guy. And you know what? I will sing his praises on the way out because we cannot forget that he took an organization that was at 14 wins and over the previous 3 years hadn't won a whole lot more than that and turned it into a 40-win team along with the growth of the young players this year and the additions and the smart moves that Trajan Langdon made.
Do you feel that? I mean, you said I don't know how much of the analysis that you actually you're able to do. You said you watch some. Um, Compared to last year, I feel like there's a lot of opportunities that the Pistons actually still had, right? Like Cade Cunningham in the second half of last season was playing a lot better than the first half, but even in the first half, he's Cade Cunningham. He's awesome, you know. Do you feel that they made good on the bones of what was there? Like there's a lot of either the dynamic pick and roll, right, with Jalen Duren, who like it really is such a perfect 1 and 2 punch, or even how Jaden Ivey's kind of slotted into how the team operates in the beginning of this season. Like, do you feel like they really found out how to optimize those promising things from the past?
That's a good question. I don't know that we saw it fully because what people have to remember about this year also is Asar Thompson and Jaden Ivey barely intersected their play this season. And so you're talking about two important young pieces. And so
Yeah.
it's like, well, you want to see how those guys play together. There still is questions about Cade Cunningham and Jaden Ivey together in terms of how they optimize each other and work together. I have real questions about Jalen Duren and Asar Thompson and how they work together on the offensive end. So, I mean, I think for this season, they did the best they could, and bringing in real gravity and floor spacing helped that. I think the one you brought up that really showed this year was Cade and Jalen Duren and their ability to work together. But I do think this season still left questions around how certain guys work together or the young core in general. I think somebody said, I think Cade, J.I., Asar, Tobias Harris, and JD got like 7 minutes of play or something like that this season. I know Tobias isn't a member of the young core, but like I think most people would probably say like those are your 5 best players, right? Or that could be your best combination of 5 guys. And like we never even saw that rotation in that lineup this season. So I think this season left a little bit of that to on the table or to be explored. That's a great way of putting it.
I am a strict grader, and I would still give it an A+. I thought they literally got so much juice out of the pieces that they had. Like, like Malik Beasley, to me, turning him into a shooter, something akin to like Klay Thompson, like not obviously not in its totality, but I'm saying like it's totally insane. And they really utilized all the pieces, like Tobias Harris as well. They
Beasley had more threes than Steph Curry this season.
It's just nuts.
Guys, real quick, it's not hyperbole. He had a historic 3-point shooting season.
Yeah.
Historic, going over 300 makes, and it was just ridiculous.
But I think that also in context of from the free throw line, not shooting it as well as most of the other guys. Like that's usually how you gauge 3-point shooting, and it's not a criticism of him. It's just practically, like, you know, objectively what it is. Like it's baffling. And on the flip side of that, I think also they to have the Knicks be pushed that much was like that. Like as a young team, that's really the best outcome you can hope for. Like it really came down to the wire in most of those games. It was very, very impressive. So I think I really can't give anything other than A+. It was like really fantastic season.
Okay, so we're going to go to the round robin section of the podcast. We're going to ask some questions and we'll try to be quick, where each of us will just answer it quickly, not go into too much detail, because we have a lot to get through and not so much time. So
I'll go both directions. The biggest negative was Jaden Ivey breaking his leg during a stretch where he was playing extremely well and not getting to see him down the stretch of the regular season into the playoffs. The biggest positive moment that I will always go back to from this season was the Game 5 victory in New York. They got screwed at the end of Game 4 with the no call. I'm not going to like sit here and complain about it or whatever, but they were down 3-1. Their backs are against the wall, and they went back into the Garden and won another game. And I said respond earlier. That was the epitome of this team's ability to respond in certain situations. So the Game 5 victory in Madison Square Garden.
Interesting. I'm actually going to go with Game 2, which is also a response. The reason why was because when the Knicks won Game 1, everyone was kind of like, yeah, like this is what we thought should happen. Like the Knicks are better than the Pistons. And like you've been saying, they responded. But it was also like, maybe you realize this because you follow the team closely. But I remember all of a sudden it was like, oh, did you realize that this is the first time, like they lost, this is a 15 playoff game losing streak? Like, I was like, what?
Yeah.
This is their first playoff win in 15 games? Like, that's like an awful streak. Like that. So I was just like, whoa. And then it was like, you know, maybe they can. I don't know about win, but maybe they really can make us competitive, which they did. But it was kind of like, if I was the Pistons fan, that was the first moment I was like, oh my gosh, like we have a real playoff team.
You know what's sad about that stat is the home playoff losing streak is still going. They unfortunately were not able to end the home playoff losing streak, but they did end the overall losing streak at least.
I'm gonna zag a little bit of a not impressive moment exactly, but there was a game against late in the season against the Wizards that got very chippy.
Yep.
And I loved seeing the physicality, but also like the team presence, like watching Holland and Stewart, like those are terrifying people to be across a fight from, you know, like you don't want to mess with them. So like it was an awesome, like I think that they had to like even bring Kate a little bit like away from it, and Duran got in the middle of it a little bit also. Like they had to just like everyone needed to like separate, but it was I loved it. I really thought it was like a we're here, you know, like an announcement. Really a strong force.
Real quick, Levy, I use that game as a reference of Ron Holland's attitude. And real quick story. So Cade's talking trash to Keyshawn George, who's a rookie for the Wizards, and their veteran Chris Middleton has to come over and be like, Cade, leave him alone, you know, whatever. Well, later in the game, Marcus Smart is like kind of not chasing, but like walking after Isaiah Stewart to the Pistons bench. And the Pistons rookie Ron Holland steps in front of Marcus Smart, like, nah, I got my guys back. So it was funny because on one team, the veteran was like supporting the rookie, and then on the other team, Ron Holland, the rookie, was the one to step in. I always remember that from this season as well.
Yeah.
And I'll just say the honorable mention, which is kind of like the game, like the Wizards game, and if we're not talking about playoffs, just regular season, the win against the Celtics, that Isaiah Stewart 20 rebound 5 block game was like, I was like, what am I watching right now? Is this guy? It's like the bad boys are back.
Yeah, I thought this was a great year for Isaiah Stewart, for people to kind of realize how good he is, his potential, and how good he can especially be in the role he's in now, and how good of a defender he is. You know, if he wasn't eligible for all defense, but if he would be, I think there at least would have been conversation. I don't think he would have made the team, but I think there would have been more conversation around it.
100%. I just, for some reason, I can't ever forget that image of him screaming at LeBron, like the most
with the blood.
Yeah. Like, and LeBron was looking at him like, "Am I gonna die here? Like, what's going on?"
Yeah, he has to rein it in every once in a while, but
like, he's an enforcer. What do you want? What do you want?
Yeah,
he's not kicking people in between the legs like Draymond, you know, like.
Sure, yeah.
We can do worst moment. We can start with you if you'd like.
Yeah, I think it's just
negative, you know.
Yeah, I think it really just has to be the Jaden Ivey injury, and like it was one of those things. Like J.I. got 30 games this season, and you know I think it would surprise people that J.I. shot 40% from three, 41% from three on the season at the time of his injury. But I was all about data collection. That was my phrase all year for Detroit. This was a data collection season. And just unfortunately not getting that data collection of him on the court with the Sar, you know, more data collection on him playing with Cade, and then specifically down the stretch in the 6 playoff games to see what he would have looked like in that setting. So that's the most disappointing or negative aspect of this season for the Pistons, in my opinion.
Right. I agree with you that it also felt that way. Like when I'm looking at it, that they thought, you know what, we feel this is an improved team. Let's throw it out there and see what happens. Yeah. And, you know, how like these results, like you're talking about a core that's substantial, really substantial in the modern NBA. And the truth is that, like, especially like you were saying, the last couple seasons, it's what you dream for. You know?
Yeah. Yep. If I had like a other small one, like an honorable mention, it would be the play of Simone Fontecchio. I thought Simone Fontecchio was going to have a really big year, and it just wasn't there. He couldn't make shots. That he eventually fell out of the rotation in the playoffs. And so like that would be a slight negative, just in terms of like not trying to take shots at Simone. I had way higher expectations than what the year ended up being for him.
I would have loved to see I would have loved to see Marcus Sasser a little bit more. Honestly, I think that
Sure, that's fair.
he's a lot of interesting play. So maybe it's because of the potential of other people not always getting as much shine.
Yeah.
Okay, so we can move on to the next one. Who would be your most enticing player on the team?
So like in terms of upside or just the player that I'm most interested to kind of see how things turn out for?
I think the latter.
Asar. I think Asar is the most enticing player here. I feel like I don't want to say like I've felt pretty confident in what Cade Cunningham was going to become. I feel like JI is similar. I even feel like with JD it's similar. Asar, I just like have no idea. Like, does the offense ever get to a point where it's like super playable in a playoff setting? Does it go beyond that? Does it not get to that? And then it's like you have this incredible defensive player, but there's always going to be some limitations offensively. I just find what he is, what he has the potential to be, and what he becomes by far the most fascinating player on this team right now.
Yeah, I think that's the answer. Just to make it interesting, I'll say Jalen Duren, even though I actually think that Bryce is right. But Jalen Duren is very, very enticing. I'm saying this more for not as most enticing, but more as like just to make the podcast interesting and not repeat what Bryce just said. I said this on our podcast, but I feel like Jalen. I'm Jewish, and I just feel like Jalen Duren had his bar mitzvah in the playoffs. He just became a man, grew up right in front of our eyes. Like I was as a Knicks fan, I was like, I was worried that Asar Thompson would play great defense on Brunson. I was worried about Cade's offense. I did not I did not realize that this Cade Duren pick and roll would be like the hardest thing to stop because we would basically double Cade and then Duren's open, and if we don't double Cade, he just scored. It was unstoppable. So I'm very very interested to see how that plays a role in the future.
I think for me, as you were alluding to before, for me it's Jaden Ivey. I think that he can take on what was the in the playoffs the Schroeder role, and I think as a young player with so much upside, like he can do that to the max, and really like it would be very interesting just to see if we even have all the Pistons even have all the pieces that they need already on the team in a sense.
Yeah, no, JI is in regards to that because I think most people would agree the thing this team needs to find is the number 2 guy, right? You have Cade as your Batman, go find your Robin, and JI is probably the most likely candidate within the roster to be that. And I know we don't want to look forward too much, but the other thing is he's also extension eligible this summer, him and Jalen Duren both. And so like all of that will be interesting as well. But to that point, Levy, like I do think it's, if JI is the Robin, he's the most important second player of this group. And so they are all fascinating and interesting in their own way, including Ron Holland as well.
Okay. Underrated player. Who in your eyes is the most underrated?
Dennis Schroeder, I think, is the most underrated. He has, and this is proof of this. We've been talking about the Pistons for the last, I don't know what's it been, a half hour. His name barely got mentioned once, if that. You talk about Cade, you talk about Ivy, you talk about Duren, you talk about Beasley, Harris. Schroeder was huge in the playoffs. Huge. And you see it also when he plays for Germany in the Olympics. But when this guy needs to get a bucket, he gets the bucket. He has no fear of anyone. When he's on, he looks like he could be just as good as Tyrese Halliburton or Cade or any of the best guards in the league. He can do that for 5-minute stints. And I just think he's extremely, extremely underrated and valuable.
Yeah, that's a great call. It was a really good addition at the deadline. Leading up to the deadline, I kept saying I wanted Trajan Langdon to kind of thread the needle of in terms of like not just taking on assets for a bad contract, but not like selling out to like, and what he did was he ended up bringing in a quality player that really fit this team along with acquiring assets. Like he also got 2nd-round picks in that deal for Dennis Schroeder, and he ended up being the perfect fit and was huge for them. It'll be interesting to see what happens in the offseason. I will throw out a name we've already thrown out. Isaiah Stewart. Like, I think people are starting to see it, but I think especially coming into the year, he was underrated and people got to see that as well. Real quickly, also, Ron Holland played 81 games in 15 minutes a night as a rookie for a team that ended up in the playoffs. And I don't think that's appreciated enough, including playing in the playoffs as one of the youngest players. And so I just want to give Ron a shout out as well in terms of like maybe he wasn't like the sixth best player, seventh or eighth best player, but that dude played every single night for a good basketball team as a rookie. And I think that should be, mentioned as well.
What is your bold prediction for off-season moves?
Who I might not be the right guy for this one. I don't think that they're going to make a crazy move this offseason.
No, I'm saying you could answer. I run it back. Like, let's just see what we got here. That could be an answer if you don't think there's a move.
So if that's okay. No, I think run it back is the most likely scenario. They're in a really interesting cap situation. They could go over or under. So like I think that they'll end up staying over so they can keep Beasley, potentially Schroeder. Like I don't know what the market's for those guys, but I think we essentially see a run it back. Maybe the bold thing is like maybe I could see them trying to find a way to back into the end of the first round. So right now they don't have a first round pick that conveyed finally from the Isaiah Stewart trade a handful of years ago. They're at 37 right now. Maybe they decide that they're going to take 37 plus whatever and get back into the end of the first round. Maybe Trajan sees some value in that. So my bold take is we actually still see a first round pick from the Detroit Pistons in the NBA draft.
Okay, so I like that. Let me make it even. I'll make you make it even bolder statement. Okay, pretend you're the Pistons GM.
Okay.
And the Bucks GM calls and says, "Listen, Giannis wants to come to Detroit. What is your offer? What do you? So you now we want other teams are shopping. We want it. We want Giannis to come to you guys, but we need the offer to be good. What are you giving up?"
Oh man. So probably starts with Asar and JD in this scenario, right? Because I think you could argue there's some interesting. See, I don't love this trade. This is always the thing with the Giannis trade, right? Because whoever he goes to has to have enough to still win a title.
Yeah.
With whatever's left.
So the hot take here the hot take for you to say would be like, we're good. But I don't know if you think that.
Yeah. I'm like, here's my thing is I think Cade is ready, but is Cade and Giannis enough depending on what else you have to give up? Like, is everybody else ready to compete at the highest level? And so like my thing is like, and does him and Jalen Duren make sense? Does Giannis make sense with a complete non-floor spacing big after he's played how many ever years with Brook Lopez? So like it's probably like Harris, Asar, Duren, and then whatever picks to get it done. But my thing is then guys, like you have Cade and Giannis, that's incredible. But now you're finishing it out with second year Ron Holland. I mean, you would still have JI and some of the floor spacing. Like, I don't know. Like, so I'm just not sure that they're ready for that type of step yet.
So I'm putting you on the spot. You gotta just give a yes or no. If you're the Pistons GM, are you saying, thank you, Mr. Bucks GM, I think we're good, or are you making the trade?
I mean, depending on exactly what it would be, I'm like, if I could get it at a low number, I probably would do it, right? But in terms of what I think it would actually have to give up for Giannis, I probably just stay with my group and move forward.
I like it. I think I agree with you. I think it's like the one of the few teams where it's like, we're good. We got a lot of young talent, and as good as Giannis is, he might kind of disrupt a little bit about what we have going, and we might go the opposite way. Like I'd rather if everyone kept the same, I'd much rather be the Pistons in the next 5 years than the Bucks for the next 5 years. So I definitely think that Giannis, as good as he is, it might be difficult to get him to the Pistons. Okay, so I guess final thoughts before we finish up. What would be, I guess, if you were if you were in the Pistons locker room and you had to give like a little speech and you were just saying like, guys, what are you saying right now? What are you saying to the Pistons?
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of the stuff we talked about, like, hey, this was an incredible season. We're proud of where we come from and got to. I think the big thing now is like, what's the next step, right? And I think one thing we've said over on our podcast on the Pistons Pulse is they don't necessarily have to take a step forward. Like they don't have to take another huge leap like what we saw, but you can't take a step backward. So what is the path to at least getting back to where you got to last year? How do you win 40 games again? Because there is a lot of young pieces that you still need to figure out. There is more data collection to be had. So guys, we got to move forward. We got to find a way to move forward. We got to find a way to take another step. We got to take another step in Cade's game, JI's game, Asar's game, etc., and continue to push this thing forward to at least where it's not a step back. We can't take step back and win 32 games next year and miss the play-in altogether and then be trying to figure stuff out from there. So how do we avoid that after what was a sensational season?
Another suggestion I would make is, I think, number one is how many MVPs do you think Cade ends up winning?
I mean, Victor's in the league. One maybe.
I think I'm inclined to like be around the same area. I think he has a chance at 2. I think like we saw it this year. I'm a OKC fan. I happen to love Shea. Jokic, like no matter what, it's always a compelling argument. Yeah. I don't like the excuse of voter fatigue, but the truth is that like we've kind of already written Victor into like, okay, that's it. MVPs and Defensive Player of the Years, they're his for the next 10 years. But Cade, I think, just affects, like, he has such a potential to affect the game in so many levels, such a high way in so many levels. But the flip side of that is, I think that the thing that I would say is help Cade better protect the ball. If he can reduce the amount of turnovers, they're golden. They're great.
Yep. That and his 3-point shooting consistency are the two things that he needs to work on this offseason and can grow into next year.
For sure.
All right, Bryce, thank you so much for coming on. We really, really appreciate your time. We'd love to have you back on. You clearly, I've followed you on Twitter for a while, but in person, you really know your stuff about the Pistons. And it's really been an honor and a privilege having you on the pod. Thank you.
Yep. Thanks, guys. I appreciate it. Let me know anytime.
Thank you. Talk to you soon.